YouTube. Jimmy here with Never Sit Still YouTube channel. I'm making this video today because I fly a Phantom 3 Pro, and I have a friend of mine who flies a Phantom 4. And when we go out flying, I get jealous because he can take his Phantom 4 and set it up and put all the props on in under 30 seconds. Me, takes a little bit longer. The spin-on props aren't that difficult, but after seeing how quick his are, I'm curious if the Phantom 4 motors will fit on a Phantom 3. So I'm here to make a video to see if the motors are similar, dissimilar, what's the differences, mounting points, everything. I'm gonna review both sets of motors and see what we come up with, to see if it's even possible to swap out motors between the two versions of the quadcopter. Let's get to it. So the first thing I thought about is what makes the Phantom 4 and the Phantom 3 so different besides the look of the body and the quick connect propellers. And in looking at my buddy's Phantom 4, initially the motors don't look different. They're about the same dimension, they're about the same height, just how they mount to the body is a little bit different. So I wanted to take a look at, wonder if I can swap them out. Of course, my buddy ain't gonna let me take apart his Phantom 4 to test it out, and I don't really want to take apart my Phantom 3 to test it out either. So what I did was went ahead and bought Phantom 3 motor, Phantom 4 motor. We're gonna open these up, take a look at them, measure them, see what the difference is. Obviously there's gonna be some big differences, but hopefully it's not enough to where we couldn't swap out the motors if needed. Now, I am flying a newer Phantom 3 Pro, so I have the newer version 2 motors, not the version 1 motors, so they're more similar to the Phantom 4 motor, and that's what I'm going to use to do this comparison. And obviously Phantom 4s only have one type of motor. So let's take a look and see what they look like. Alright guys, so I got the two types of motors here. I do have a couple other tools that I grabbed just to make sure I'm doing this somewhat scientifically. I got a caliper, digital caliper reader. I got some pliers, so in case you got to pull any pins to do some measurements, and then I got some other pliers and then some small screwdrivers. So we're just gonna go ahead and take these apart. I'll probably fast forward this video once I take these apart. You guys don't want to watch me unbag it. Okay, so we have the two motors. They come with sets of screws, and then obviously the packaging doesn't really have anything in it. This one might have a little diagram of some sort. So take an initial look at it. They look very similar, which is getting me a little excited. Okay, so the big difference is the screws so far, is it looks like this comes with 4 screws. This comes with 6 screws. These are shorter, these are longer. So that's probably the difference in the mounting points. Obviously the wires are a different color, but overall, without taking any measurements, putting them right next to each other, the difference is barely noticeable, if any, besides the mounting of the prop. So this should be interesting. Oh, and then there's the big difference is, you guys can see here, right there. The old propeller, the old motor, the Phantom 3 version 2 motor is 4 mounting holes. The Phantom 4 is only 3. So from this point, we can take some measurements and see where we're at. And I'll do the old motor first, and I'll try to write it down on the paper so we can keep score here. Okay, so what I did here was I just got some criteria to measure these two motors, and we'll measure each one separately, and then at the end we'll kind of do a summary on what everything looks like and what the differences are.
I did open up the package for the Phantom 3 version 2 motor, and it shows the difference. See if you guys can see that properly. Between the version 1 motor and the version 2 motor, so there is quite a bit of difference on the shape and everything else, and this is one of the reasons why I wanted to look into this, because the version 2 motor is more similar to the version on the Phantom 4. So interesting, but that came with the package. So we'll get started with the Phantom 3 version 2 motor, and we'll take the height measurement real quick. Let's see here. We are looking at 25.82 millimeters. Diameter of the barrel is 28.15. Inner shaft. What I did is there's this little snap ring. I don't know if you guys can see it. I went ahead and took these off ahead of time because I wanted to measure the shaft that runs completely through the motor with the bearings, and there's a little brass collar in there as well, and I wanted to measure that between the two separate motors as well. So we'll make sure we're at 0. Take a measurement of the stainless steel shaft, which looks like it's right around, let's see if we get it right here, 2.89 millimeters. And then that outer brass collar, I don't know if you can see it, we'll measure that as well. If I can get this in here. Yeah. 3.99. And this is just a Harbor Freight caliper tool, and I don't know how accurate it is, but comparing the two with this should be pretty good. Next thing I'm going to look at is the number of poles. And as you look in this motor, I call the coil wraps the number of poles. But we count through here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So there's 12 different coil wraps all the way around there. And so I'll write that down. There's 12. And this is just to see if the motors are really made the same way. And we'll count the magnets around the barrel itself. This outer spinning barrel. There's magnets permanently mounted to the outside. Count those real quick. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Looks like there's 14 permanent magnets. And the last piece was the wires. I wanted to take a quick measurement of how long this is, and it looks like it's about 5 inches of wire. 5 inches. Okay, now Phantom 4 motor. So we'll do the same thing. Make sure you zero it out. The height of the motor is 26.24. Diameter 28.21. Yep. I'm reading 28.1415 the second time I measured it. So we'll leave it as is just for sake of doing it the first time around. Inner shaft is going to be 2.90. The brass collar, 3.99. Number of poles, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Number of magnets. 14 magnets, and then the cables are 6 inches long. 6 inches. Okay. So, as for the initial measurements from the outside from comparing the two motors, as you can see here, I'll see if we can get it. There we go. They look almost identical, and from what I can gather, the height is different. The Phantom 4 is a half a millimeter, probably a half a millimeter bigger, taller than the Phantom 3, so it's a little bit taller. The diameter of them are really close, and remember that I measured this one at 28.21 millimeters, 28.15 on the Phantom 3, but when I measured this the second time, it came in at 0.14, so really close, almost exact. And it's really depending on how I'm holding the caliper. If I'm holding it perfectly level with the motor, I think that's the difference there. The inner shaft, 2.89 for the Phantom 3, 2.90, so that's 0.01 millimeters difference. I think it's probably operator error on the difference there. The brass collar, 3.99 exactly on both. Poles are exactly the same. Magnets are exactly the same, and then the cables are a little bit shorter on the Phantom 3. So as it appears here, I could safely say that these are pretty much the exact same motor, besides a few differences on the height, and that could be the way they've developed the mounting points for the propellers, and the cable length is different, but the internal shaft that is connected to the bearings, let's see if we can get it here, are exactly the same size. So in theory, these motors are probably interchangeable. Now, the biggest thing why you can't change them out is the mounting points. Unless you have some sort of conversion that goes from a 4-place to a 3-place and mounts it to the quadcopter, there's no way you can use a Phantom 4 motor out of the box onto a Phantom 3. And there's no way to use a Phantom 3 motor out of the box on a Phantom 4 because of the mounting points. I don't know if there's any wiring difference on the inside, coiling or anything else, if there's a difference, but I'm curious now. Okay guys, so I had a theory on how I could possibly, with everything being almost identical in these motors between the Phantom 3 and the Phantom 4, I had an idea that if I could take the motor apart, which means take the spinning part, the barrel off, and just swap it with the Phantom 3 barrel. So we would have the 4 mounting points for Phantom 3, but you'd have the quick connect top of the Phantom 4. I was very optimistic that this would work, and I think it could work. However, when I mounted it to this and I tried to punch out, I took the retaining collar, the retaining pin off, and I tried to punch down to separate these two pieces, and they're definitely pressed together. There's a brass collar that looks like it's pressed on the inner shaft. I can't get this out, and in fear of really damaging the motor trying to punch it out, it's not working, and maybe someone out there has a different way of doing it and they can test it out, but for me, I don't see how I can get these motors apart. They're not meant to come apart. Clearly they've been pressed together in a way to spin tightly and not have any vibration or any looseness to the bearings. So it doesn't look like I'm going to be able to get this apart. So if any of you guys out there have a better way of getting these apart, I think that's the option. If you want to put the quick connect propellers on your Phantom 4, or excuse me, on your Phantom 3 from a Phantom 4, you're going to have to figure out a way to get this top half barrel off and slide on a new top half barrel, because they're almost exactly the same, and I think it would work. I just don't know how to get them apart. So guys, keep in the comments and figure out how we might be able to achieve this, because I think this would be a good mod for the Phantom 3s, especially come this September when most of the newer Phantoms are out of warranty. You can start doing these mods without fear of voiding your warranty, so it's something we need to think about. other than that, I appreciate you guys watching the channel. Please subscribe if you haven't already, and like the video and share with all your friends to look at this comparison side by side. Pretty darn close. Thank you.